How's everybody doing today? And as you can see, we're doing something a little different. We're going to be taking my first impressions of RBI Baseball, because for Xbox, there really isn't a baseball game that they have to play. There's Super Mega Baseball 2, and really there's just RBI Baseball that Xbox can play. So I wanted to see how it compares to MLB the Show, and if you really should just go out and get a PlayStation to get a good baseball game or not. So right away, my first impressions with like the menus and stuff were they were pretty clean, pretty nice looking. I hopped into a game to check out gameplay, animations, the graphics, how they looked, and that's supposed to be Arrieta on the mound. That's supposed to be Zobrist hitting. So automatically, I was a little let down, and I decided to hop into the settings because I didn't like the batting angle, like the batting camera. You can't change it, which is a little disappointing. So you have to stick with this batting camera, and you have to do the same for pitching as well. And then I decided to look at the controls, and they're pretty straightforward. The thing that I found that was kind of weird was there's no like batting PCI. You don't really move a PCI to hit the ball. You move the batter, which I thought was kind of weird. And then on top of that, for pitching as well, it's the same way. You kind of move the pitcher on the mound left or right for a location. There's no PCI. And for pitch selection, you push up, down, left, or right for pitch selection, and then you just press A, and it throws a different type of pitch. It was like a fastball, a slow, like breaking, a changeup. There really weren't names for the pitches. It's just you push your direction and then press A. Looking at hitting, I just really didn't like the fact that you couldn't change the camera angle. Like, it makes it really difficult to kind of judge the how the ball's gonna break, where the ball's located. It makes it kind of difficult to hit, and it was actually a little disappointing that you couldn't remove the camera angle around, and it was a little bit, it just kind of took away from the gameplay. It just wasn't easy to hit. It was kind of weird, and something that I just didn't really like. And then even with pitching, it was the same way. You can't really locate your pitches. You kind of just throw it. You move the pitcher left or right on the mound, and you just throw it. It's kind of weird that that's the only way to locate where you want to swing or where you want to pitch. So from there, gameplay wise, it's a little lackluster. Looking at animations, they really weren't fluid, and that was something that I was, again, disappointed in. It felt like I was playing like a retro mode, or a game that was made in like the early 2000s and had a little bit better graphics. That's really what it felt like when I was playing this game. Animations defensively really weren't there. They were kind of sliding across the field. It just wasn't fluid. It literally looked like I was playing like a game from the early 2000s. That's what it felt like. Defensively, I'm all over the place. Even input wasn't quick. There were a couple clips here where I'm going to show double play where I was literally smashing to throw the ball, and they still took like 1 or 2 seconds before they reacted to it. And this is actually one of those clips where you can see Chris Bryant, yeah, he makes a quick throw to second, but right here I was hitting B, and it just wouldn't throw it to first, which I thought was really weird. Like, I want a quick reaction from a player. I don't want to just have to smash B constantly to get a reaction from my fielder, which I thought was really weird. So I decided to hop into a second game just to see, if I got a little bit more comfortable with gameplay and stuff like that. And I decided to pick the team with the cover star, the Astros, and I decided to go against the Blue Jays because they have the Canadian cover star as well. I thought that was a hit. Like, he didn't really look like he got under the ball there. That was a little bit weird for me. And it actually worked out really well because in the game you can't really there's no replays, which I thought was weird. You can't like press pause and go into a replay screen. You just have to hope you get like a cutscene. And here I wanted to see what Bregman's likeness was to his real life self, and it kind of looks like him, but it looks like they just did a really basic face scan and then put it on a generic body, which is a little disappointing to see. I would think that you would want to make this as realistic as possible. You would want to bring out a quality game in terms of graphics and in terms of gameplay, and it's just not clean graphically, and it's just gameplay wise, the animations just aren't there. You guys can see that was a really like routine ground ball, and 2 back-to-back plays almost. I had my second baseman and my shortstop have to go backwards to retrieve a ground ball. I thought that just was so bad animation wise. They're just not good. And so I heard there were rumors of franchise being updated a little bit, and I guess they just released franchise in last year's installment of the game. So I thought, you know what, let's see how we could do this year, see how the game is. And I've decided to make trades on strict so that it would be somewhat realistic, I guess. Turned off injuries, not too many settings to choose from. And then once you get into the game, you can kind of see it's a pretty basic menu for franchise. There's not too much in depth in terms of rosters or anything like that. When you see your roster, you basically have your lineup, your bench, and then you can see your pitchers. There's not too much that varies in this screen. It's basically pretty straightforward. You got your starting rotation, you got your bullpen, and that you got your 4 lineups with your DH and without your DH. So it was pretty straightforward, nothing too in depth. I do like the way the menus look. They're very clean, they're pretty responsive. Another thing I noticed in franchise, there's no minors, which was a little disappointing. I like to have a farm system. I like to be able to develop youth players, and in this you don't have that. You have, I think it was like 15 players that you can put in a reserve pool, so that if you ever have an injury that you can throw those players into the team. But outside of that, there's not too much. Obviously there's free agents, and then there's something cool about this. You guys can see that there's legends before 1993, and there's also legends after 93. You know, there's some players like Johnny Bench, Rod Carew, Orlando Cepeda. They have AJ Pierzynski, Jorge Posada, Adam Dunn, not Andrew Dunn, Adam Dunn, Jason Giambi, Craig Counsell. So some names that MLB doesn't currently have, and some names that they do, but really there's not too much in terms of depth in a roster standpoint on a franchise. There's no minor league system, and even trades were pretty simple to do. I went to the Astros because I wanted to pick up Carlos Correa to play shortstop for the Cubs, and I just selected David Bodie, Victor Caratini. And remember, this is a strict trade system, but the Astros still, you know, accepted it, which I thought was really weird. So after setting the lineup, setting the rotation and everything, I decided to sim to the end of the season, and this is just the standings. You know, there's no wild card spot that you can like look out for, so you kind of just have to figure out yourself if you're in a wild card spot or not. So luckily we figured out we made the postseason, and again, there really isn't too much in terms of depth in this franchise mode, which again is really disappointing. It's pretty much a very simplistic, casual way of playing franchise. It's really just like a seasons mode that previous MLB games have put into their games. So you can see we got eliminated the first round. We decided to hit into the offseason. I was hoping maybe there's some free agency, maybe there's a draft, and there isn't. There's nothing for you to add to your team. You get one selection in kind of this very basic draft, and you get to select one player here, and that's really about it. That's the only way you can add new players to your team that aren't already in the MLB, which again, very disappointing. This franchise mode lacks a lot in terms of depth. It's a very cookie cutter, very standard franchise mode. It's just seasons. Like, there's no new free agents thrown into the free agents pool. Really, the only way you're making a team is if you trade or you go deep into this franchise mode with selecting new players from that one player draft that you get to do. So that outside of that, I'm really disappointed in RBI Baseball this year. I thought they would, you know, put a little bit more in the franchise mode, in gameplay, into animations and stuff. So overall, I would save your money. I would just invest it into a PlayStation and get MLB the Show. It's just so much better in terms of gameplay. The franchise mode is more in depth. It's just a lot better made game. And unfortunately, I was a little disappointed because Xbox, you guys need a game, but it's just not happening with RBI Baseball. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below. I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace.